What's up everyone, OJ here, and welcome to another video. And it's been a while since we've talked about Fire Emblem here on Player Essence, so I decided, you know what, let's go ahead and let's talk about everything that we know about Fire Emblem Three Houses on the Nintendo Switch. For those who don't know, I'm a huge Fire Emblem fan, been a fan really since Fire Emblem Awakening. That's really when I got my start, although I went back and played a lot of the old school Fire Emblems and they're okay, but I'm really liking the new school style of Fire Emblem, starting with Awakening and going all the way through to Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia. And we'll talk about that game just a bit in relation to Fire Emblem Three Houses, but I wanted to go over everything that we did know about this game because it is a little bit of a ways off. It's spring 2019, and we'll kind of define what that is, but there's been some little bits of information that maybe kind of went through the cracks that I wanted to talk about. Plus, I just wanted to refresh what this game is going to be about, the characters, because I do get questions every now and then about the game. So let's just start off with the basis, what we do know from Nintendo, straight from the horse's mouth, on Fire Emblem Three Houses. So this is a brand new Fire Emblem game with a new story and characters. It's coming to the Nintendo Switch once again, spring 2019. The game takes place on Fogland, and I probably said that wrong, sorry about that, where the Church of Syros exercises great power over the land and its people. As the main character, the player must not only fight on the battlefield, but also move the character freely and interact with other characters to build relationships and gather information at some parts. Let's talk about that just briefly before we go over some of the other stuff. So Fire Emblem has never been one of those games to where you can move around freely. It's usually you have like an overworld map and you kind of move from point to point like in Fire Emblem Awakening, and then you go into the battlefield. However, recently with Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia, they brought back that mechanic of kind of free roaming and exploring with the dungeons. So it looks like they're going to take that and even ramp it up a bit more, since they're talking about moving around freely, and it's one of the key features of the game, or key aspects of the game, in the description. So I like the fact that they're doing that, and I think that Fire Emblem is greatly going to benefit from being able just to kind of move around freely, because that was one of my favorite things in Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia. So let's continue on here. This turn-based tactical RPG will put a new strategic twist on battling, with formations of troops supporting individual units on the battlefield. Do you have what it takes to survive and conquer in this brand new Fire Emblem game? So that was actually one of the best new additions to the battle system, because it seems like leaders or captains on the battlefield will have troops to support them. So that can create a whole new dynamicness to the battles that we've never seen before in a Fire Emblem game. Now, what we usually get in Fire Emblem titles is to where like you have two party members and you can link up and support each other. So if you're right next to them, you can link up and support with defense and offense, or you can actually link up together, join the unit together to where both of you guys move in tandem and fight that way. It's always a really good system. Fire Emblem has implemented it, then taken it out, then kind of re-implemented it, and really Fire Emblem Awakening is where I experienced that first, and I felt that it was a great system. But in this one here, it seems like you're no longer going to need to do that at all. What you can do now is that you have your troops to support you, and maybe there's some extra buffs if you're right next to it with your troops and other people's troops, and then you kind of put right next to it two captains. Maybe there's even like a double support or like super support with that. But I think there's a lot of avenues that they can go with that, and I'm really excited to see how they take the whole troop support system within your unit on the battlefield, because it looks gorgeous, guys. It really looks awesome. Now, Nintendo's detailed a little bit more about the features of the game, and I want to get into that too. So this is a traditional turn-based tactical RPG that puts new twists on strategic battling. Now, when a player maneuvers a unit, formations of troops move with them and support them in battle, like we just talked about. Now, in some parts, the player can move the main character freely and interact with other characters and gather information as well. So that's a little bit different, I guess, than what we've seen before from Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia. It looks like they're moving way past what that game did, because that really wasn't gathering information in free moving parts. That was more of like battling monsters, right? Because when you went into the towns, it was just kind of static and you just went from point to point and it wasn't free moving. So they're really taking that aspect, like I said, and moving it to the next level when it comes to Fire Emblem. This is something that we really haven't seen before in a Fire Emblem game, the way that this one is doing it. Now, the game is set in a new world where the Church of Suros once again exercises great power over everybody. So I think that's going to be the theme. You have this 3 houses thing, you have multiple different new characters that are being put into the mix. It's really going to be a story of maybe what is the house planning, what is the church planning over its people, what is the anger, or what is the thing that they're trying to do, why are they ruling the way that they rule. So excited about the story as well. Your protagonist in the game meets 3 main characters. You have Edelgard, Dimitri, and Claude, who all play important roles in the story. So all of this information, once again, based on what we learned at E3 2018, and I like the fact that there's 3 separate people and then you have your own protagonist and you're not one of the 3. I think it's a little bit more dynamic, and of course it fits within the name Fire Emblem 3 houses. I did have some people ask me questions like, oh, does that name mean there's going to be like 3 versions of the game? And no, that's not the case, because if there was 3 versions of the game, they would have already let us know there's 3 versions of the game, and Fire Emblem Echoes Shadows of Valentia didn't have multiple versions either, so it looks like there's going to be just this one. However, I do feel that there's going to be DLC, there's going to be like a story, expansions, or stuff like that to where you can download more content, because Intelligent Systems always does this with the Fire Emblem games. They kind of went crazy with Fire Emblem Awakening with the DLC and everything you can get there and all of that, and all the way up to Shadows of Valentia. That game has like a DLC season pass that's like more than the actual game itself. It does deliver a lot of content, but it's definitely pricey, so I'm not expecting the game to have an expansion pass or DLC that's more than the actual base game, but at the same time I am expecting there to be DLC in the game, because Intelligent Systems always does DLC in Fire Emblem games. But just like all the other Fire Emblem games, you're still going to get hundreds of hours of content even without DLC. I haven't really spent any money on Fire Emblem DLC except for Awakening, but even before I bought the DLC, I still put over 100 hours into the game. Same thing goes with Fire Emblem Fates. I didn't buy any of the DLC outside of the 2 separate games. I did buy that, but even with my Fire Emblem Fates Conquest purchase on the Nintendo 3DS, I still spent over 150 hours in that game without even playing any of the other ones or getting any of the DLC. So they always give you plenty of content in the game. Now let's talk briefly about some other details that we do know, and this is something that was updated recently that hasn't been talked about much, and it's not a huge deal, but considering how some games have it and how some games don't, it's the fact that Fire Emblem 3 Houses does support cloud saves. So that's good to know, because you're going to spend a lot of time in this type of game with Fire Emblem 3 Houses, so you want to make sure that you can have a backup for your save somehow. Now I'm hoping that there's a local option by the time that this game comes out, but still, the fact that you're going to have that cloud save is definitely good. Now once again, Nintendo Intelligent Systems is going to be on this one. Now the players at this point is 1 player. Fire Emblem Fates actually dabbled with online multiplayer, dabbled with multiplayer as well, the My Castle stuff. So it's interesting to see that they're not really heading into that territory with this game on the Switch, considering there could even be like a local option, right, to where you can kind of fight against somebody or team up against the computer in a local option. Now they might be waiting to announce that, because all this information, and they made sure to make this clear, is based off of E3 2018. So there could be multiplayer added in at some point, and maybe that's the reason why the game got delayed, or one of the reasons why the game did get delayed is to add in some multiplayer or add in something a little bit more dynamic. I would think they would have at least local multiplayer in there, but we don't know. As of this point right now, it's a 1-player game. Once again, strategy RPG. The age is pending on the rating. Now let's talk about when potential release dates could be for Fire Emblem 3 Houses. So officially, according to Nintendo, this is spring 2019. All right, so spring essentially starts around March 20th and goes to June 20th. That is the time frame roughly that spring goes from. So we can see this game anywhere from March at the earliest to June at the latest from Nintendo, according to what they've said here. Now, if you look at all the different titles that are coming out for the Nintendo Switch in 2019, there are a lot of different games, and I'm not exactly sure where Nintendo will position this one. In the past, Fire Emblem games have came out all over the place, but they're usually first half games, they're usually spring games, so whether it's March, April, or May, I think those months are obviously the prime months for Fire Emblem games like we've seen before. I'm going to guess this is going to be an April or May type of title. I don't think it'll dip into June. I think it's going to be an April or May type of game to give a boost right after the financial results. Fire Emblem Three Houses, a lot of people don't really have too much confidence in the Fire Emblem franchise because it's been on the 3DS when it comes to sales and everything, but this game is probably going to be the best selling Fire Emblem game ever because it's on the Nintendo Switch. It's the first time that we're getting a home console Fire Emblem or anything that's considered a home console in more than a decade. It's been the Wii. That's the last time. They completely skipped the Wii U and made all of the games on the Nintendo 3DS. So it's been a long time. There's going to be a lot of Fire Emblem fans that want to jump back into this. So that's pretty much everything that we know about the game so far. Potential release dates, we do have the cloud saves, everything about the characters, the story. That's the roundup of information, guys. Are you excited for Fire Emblem Three Houses? What are you expecting from this game when it comes to more of the combats? What do you think about the information that's been revealed? And what do you want to see them add that they haven't revealed at this point? I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts in the comment section below. Alright, Ninja, that wraps it up for this video here. Go ahead and check out the links in the description below. We got Facebook and Twitter. Go ahead and give us a like and a follow on our social media. Really helps to spread the content of Player Essence across the internet in addition to YouTube. Also, make sure you check out our Patreon, Twitch, and YouTube live gaming pages and consider supporting Player Essence. Hit that like button if you did like this video. Lets me know you guys want more content like this going forward in the future. And subscribe to Player Essence for the latest RPG, Japanese, and Nintendo gaming news. Thank you so much for watching. I will catch you, Ninja, for the next video. Peace.